Hello, this is Antoine Thompson with Green Leaders on the Move. We're so excited to be here today. For those of you who are not aware, a few days ago was International Biodiesel Day. We at Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition, we are leading the way for alternative fuels, clean energy, trying to protect our planet for generations to come. It is our responsibility to leave this place a lot better than we found it. You can always visit us online at GWRCCC, that's 3Cs.org or .org. You can also follow us on social media as well on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all those other good social media channels. Today we have a dynamic individual, Colin Huwyler, who is the founder, CEO of Optimus Technologies. Colin is the CEO of the company. He's a diesel engine decarbonization company focused on developing engine technology for medium and heavy duty diesel engines to operate on high biodiesel blends. Colin has been in the biofuels industry since 2004, serving in various capacities across feedstock, production, and technology equipment. He holds a BS degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Pittsburgh and is a co-investor on several patents. All right. He is also director of the Clean Fuels Alliance Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to advancement of research and education for clean burning, biomass-based diesel alternatives. All right, so we're so excited. As I mentioned earlier, August 10th was International Biodiesel Day, and there are literally millions of diesel-powered trucks on the road, and hopefully we can get Colin the ability to retrofit all of them, So we love for all those local and state and federal lawmakers and green bank folks and banker folks who are figuring out how they can fix the planet. I'm hoping that you can call Colin and you can talk about with him on how you can help them do something today and retrofit all these diesel trucks that are on the road. But without further ado, we want to give Colin a chance to talk about what is biodiesel. Can you provide a brief overview of what biodiesel is and how it differs from traditional diesel?
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity and glad to be here. So biodiesel is a replacement diesel fuel that is that's derived from essentially plant and animal fats. So any type of a lipid can be made into biodiesel. So I think any type of fat or oil can be made into biodiesel. And in the U.S., it's predominantly used cooking oils from restaurants, animal fats from rendering facilities, and byproducts of the agricultural industry like soybean oils. And so it's a product that goes through similar to crude oil, gets refined into petroleum diesel. Biodiesel is those vegetable oils that get refined into a dedicated product called biodiesel, and it has its own specifications that it needs to meet. So
awesome. And you talked a little bit about some of the main sources of feedstock using producing biodiesel, but could you say that one more time? What are some of the feedstocks related to that?
Yeah, so really any kind of fat or oil, and that's what's one of the really cool things about biodiesel is it can be made from literally hundreds of different types of fats or oils. In the US, it's predominantly fryer grease. So after the restaurant gets done cooking with it, instead of throwing it away, that waste product can actually be processed into biodiesel. And then a whole host of other things. But one of the other large biodiesel feedstocks in the U.S. is actually soybean oil, and we get that soybean oil from the bean itself by crushing the bean, and you create two products. You create a protein, which is generally why the soybeans are grown, and then you get this byproduct that's the oil that's generated for every bean that gets crushed. You have a byproduct of the vegetable oil, and so that oil goes into making biodiesel.
Awesome, awesome. Why don't we talk about the environmental benefits and some of the health benefits as a result of using biodiesel?
Yeah, biodiesel is it is as it sounds. It's a bio-based product, so it's much safer to handle. Actually, if you're measuring kind of the toxicity, it's less toxic than table salt. So it's biodegradable, it's non-toxic, and then obviously when you're handling fuels, there's always a flammability, a combustibility concern. Biodiesel is less combustible than certainly gasoline, but even traditional diesel fuel. So it has what's the flash point, which is what measures that temperature. It has a much higher flash point than traditional petroleum fuels, and so it's safer to handle, safer to transport, and from a health standpoint, it generates about 50 to 70% less particulate emissions. So diesel, the traditional image that people have of diesel engines is, big billowing black smoke. That smoke is a function of particulate matter that gets emitted from the combustion of the diesel. And biodiesel reduces that by up to 70%.
Wow, that's a big number. 70%, that's a big number. So let's talk about the different levels of biodiesel. There's the B5, there's the B20, there's the B85, and there's the B100. What's the difference between all of them?
Yeah, so
maybe some, and am I missing one? I got like four that I know of. So
well, yeah. So biodiesel, historically, and it's been blended into traditional diesel, as you had indicated in that kind of blend component. So BX, whatever number it is, refers to the percentage of biodiesel that's mixed with the traditional diesel. So a B5 would be 5% biodiesel and 95% traditional petroleum diesel. So still predominantly, fossil traditional petroleum diesel. B20 is a 20% blend of biodiesel, and really can be used anything from a B1 to a B100. Any blend in there can be utilized, but most engines today are only compatible with biodiesel blends up to a 20%. So commonplace today is biodiesel blending generally between a B5 and a B20, and then with some engine upgrades, which is what Optimus does, you can actually operate on 100% biodiesel. So no petroleum diesel. The engine's operating on 100% biodiesel.
And how for people that are interested in doing that, how does that process work, and what's the cost of that too?
Yeah,
and
so
for new and used, or just new vehicles, or so tell about how the process works, and then how do they how do they afford it, right? Because I'm sure you work with people, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so the process for upgrading an engine to run on 100% biodiesel is the focus and the work that Optimus does. So we build it's a fuel system technology. So it includes things like the fuel tanks, the fuel system components, pumps, filters, sensors, to actually bolt on. So it's a bolt on upgrade that goes into diesel engines and provides them with that flexibility to run either traditional diesel or up to 100% biodiesel. And so that's one of the really cool things about the utilization of biodiesel is it really is flexible across the existing engine platforms. And the technology can be retrofit, or we can upgrade existing engines. You mentioned earlier, millions of commercial vehicles on the road. In the US, there's about 15 million commercial diesel vehicles on the road today.
Say that number again.
Yeah, 15 million
Wow.
medium and heavy duty trucks that are on the road today. That's a massive number. And one of the benefits, but also in the case of emissions, one of the downsides to diesel engines is that they have such a long lifespan. So these 15 million vehicles, most diesel vehicles have an average lifespan of 15 years or more. And so those 15 million trucks could be on the road, for another 15 years if they're getting put into service today. And so, our technology can upgrade the existing trucks that are out there, or we also work with manufacturers and we can integrate the product as the truck is being built. And that's where a lot of our customers go. They'll just integrate it from day one. And so what they take off the line, what they get delivery of as a vehicle is essentially a flexible fueled vehicle. It can run on either traditional diesel or up to 100% biodiesel.
And just one quick question on the B100, what's the reduction rate of pollution and all the other buzzwords?
Yeah, predominantly agencies and corporations are moving towards or working towards achieving some type of carbon reduction threshold. So I think the district has an objective. I think their target is 80% carbon reduction by 2030. And what you actually achieve with biodiesel is a 100% reduction of carbon emissions for every gallon of biodiesel that's used in replacement of a gallon of diesel fuel. And so that 80% reduction number can be achieved by using biodiesel today. So their target by 2030 in the district is in fact being achieved by a lot of the heavy duty vehicles within the district. DC Department of Public Works, DC Department of Transportation, and DC Water are all using 100% biodiesel through the Optimus technology in their medium and heavy duty truck fleet. So, street sweepers, vacuum trucks for sewer cleaning, refuse collection, snow plows. All these heavy duty vehicles are actually already achieving greater than an 80% carbon reduction today.
Wow, that's good. One thing important to note to folks who are watching is one of the reasons why we're so excited about this technology is it helps reduce rates of asthma. Many people don't realize that asthma rates increase from diesel emissions. So if you're concerned about high rates of asthma, lupus, and other respiratory related illnesses, you should be calling and emailing and texting and inboxing and tweeting to your state and federal officials to give this gentleman a call, because he can help reduce all that black smoke that he talked about earlier immediately. It takes you how many months to retrofit vehicles if they call you?
Yeah. So typical project timeline from contract to deployment is anywhere between 3 and 6 months. And to your point, that 70% reduction in particulate matter directly attributes to an improvement in air quality and a reduction in asthma attacks and the rate of those fine particulates in the air that ultimately cause respiratory diseases and inflammation.
Thank you, Colin. That's good. I wanted to what inspired you to start Optimus?
So it's a little bit of a winding journey, but initially started as a hobby, personal interest in sustainability, and got involved in using biofuels for my personal diesel vehicle. So I was driving a Volkswagen Jetta at the time,
And you went to University of Buffalo. I used to work there.
I did, yeah. So I had started college at University of Buffalo, and I lived about 45 minutes, an hour outside of Buffalo, and so was looking for a sustainable solution for commuting. And so that was what got me interested and involved in
Wow.
the biofuels world, and it kind of evolved, and Optimus's focus is on medium and heavy duty trucks because the amount of fuel that those vehicles consume is an order of magnitude more than passenger vehicles, and so the impact we can make is so much greater by focusing on those heavy duty engines.
We may be doing a forum with Clean Fuels in Buffalo next month. So hopefully it comes together, and I'll definitely make sure that they have you someone that gives remarks, especially being with that Buffalo connection. I was sharing with one of the gentlemen earlier, Trunzo, that in the Buffalo area, the air quality is just so bad in some of the neighborhoods on the east side and west side, lower west side, because of the highways and the trucks and all the diesel. And so I forgot that you were a student. Buffalo. For those of you who are watching that may not know, I'm originally from Buffalo. I used to chair the Committee on Environmental Conservation when I was a state senator there. But I've been was very involved with asthma studies, a lot of things around transportation and things that I don't want to take this thing down that road, but I wanted to share that. Thank you for uh, your Buffalo connection. So I know you know what good wings taste like. So yes, chicken wings did start from Buffalo, everyone. I want y'all to know Buffalo wings did start in Buffalo. All
Yep.
right, so next
For biodiesel feedstock, fry the wings, pull the fryer oil out, send it into renewable fuels.
good. So let's talk about, you got a little bit about the some of the work you're doing in DC. What have been some of the challenges and successes with all the different equipment? You talked earlier about the trash trucks and the tractors and the street sweepers and vacuums and all the different equipment that go through neighborhoods every day. And I think, that's a beautiful thing. I love seeing the Optimus Technology logo on it and powered by biodiesel stickers on there. I wish I could see that on the highway when I'm driving every day. So we got some work to do, but we're big champions. So talk about some of the early challenges. I know you all had to work through some things in DC, and you're expanding to do some work in with Prince George's County as well. So we're glad to have been a supporter of that forthcoming initiative. But share some of the good work with people.
Yeah, so the work in DC originated out of the district's use of biodiesel already. So the district has always been a biodiesel champion, and utilizing low blends of biodiesel. So a 5% blend in the winter, and then transitioning to a 20% blend in the summer. And so we got on the radar of the district probably around 2015, and we launched our first evaluation of the technology in 2018. So a little bit of a challenge, I think this is the case across all municipal and governmental sectors. Little bit of time in getting the project in place, getting all the structure and all the procurement items lined up. But in 2018, we started with an initial pilot validation of 6 refuse trucks. These were existing trucks that were already in operation. And so we upgraded those vehicles and ran for about a year doing data collection. And across the board, it was a pretty phenomenal success. We certainly learned a lot about working with the district, working with a variety of different stakeholders. So there's procurement, who's actually purchasing the vehicles. You've got the fuels team, you've got the technicians, you've got the drivers, and so just that process really helped us to refine our ability to bring forward a project plan and a structure that allows all stakeholders to be involved, all the stakeholders to have a say in the process. And then the critical component across everything is education. So, just making sure that everybody understands what's being done and why. And a lot of that has to do with, making sure that, the drivers understand that, something, there's a little bit of a difference in the vehicle from a power and performance standpoint. It operates exactly the same, but, there are new components on the vehicle. And so, letting them know, it's not just something that's being thrown at them. It's being done for their benefit, to help them and to help the communities that they're operating in.
That's great. That's great. So let me ask you a couple of things. One is on how has the local community and government responded to your efforts in promoting biodiesel? I know that you mentioned they reached out to you, but there's a lot of governments in at least in the DC area and around the country. How's it going with trying to get more of these state and local governments to see the importance of biodiesel?
Yeah, so I think it's always an ongoing effort, but certainly making great progress, and the work we do with the district is increasing year over year. As it relates to other agencies or municipalities, I think the biggest challenge that still exists today is just not knowing about the technology, not having familiarity with biodiesel. Biodiesel actually has been around for a really long time, but throughout most of the course of biodiesel's existence, it's been, when you're referring to biodiesel, you've been referring to a 5% or a 20% blend. And so this concept to use 100% biodiesel is relatively new. Only within the past 8 or 9 years has our technology really been available in the market, and has the opportunity really existed. And so it's an educational component, especially when you have policymakers looking at making fleet decisions. The biggest challenge we have across the board is a policymaker or an administration saying, "Oh, we're going to be 100% electric," or "We're going to be 100, we're going to transition to this type of technology." And I think that from an education standpoint, that's probably one of the biggest challenges, is understanding that fleets are a diverse mix of different type of assets. You've got light duty, medium duty, heavy duty. On the heavy duty side, you've got all of the equipment we talked about earlier, plus hundreds of other pieces of equipment. And really, it's about finding the right type of technology for the right application. And I'll just kind of hone in on one point, which is all of the benefits, all of the opportunity that biodiesel can bring to a fleet in terms of emission reductions, in terms of operational benefits, in terms of carbon abatement. That can all be done within the next 3 to 6 months, right? An aggressive plan could get all the fleet vehicles operating on 100% biodiesel, within a 6 month to 1 year period. When you're looking at other technologies, especially technologies that are really in their infancy, like electrification and hydrogen and other types of potential solutions on the heavy duty side, these technologies are decades away from being viable at scale. And it's not to say that the technologies don't have a place and can't be beneficial, but when you're talking about reducing pollution and reducing carbon emissions and improving communities, waiting a decade until some type of vehicle exists as an electric option, or maybe longer depending on the infrastructure. We just don't see that as a real viable pathway, as a viable strategy. And the challenge that we face when talking to fleet managers a lot of times is, they've been given a directive by policymakers. Oh,
yeah,
we need
and
100%.
the politics of it. Well, anything we can do as a former city council member and former state senator that's been pro-environment, clean energy for many, 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 many years before this stuff was fashionable. We are here to help. I wanted to see if you can just quickly, because we only have a few minutes left, and I want to give you a chance to give some closing comments. One is share with us the difference. You talked earlier that the B5, B20, B85, and B100. They're all based on what percentage of the blend is mixed with traditional diesel. But can you talk about what is renewable diesel and what's the difference between biodiesel and renewable diesel?
Yeah, so biodiesel and renewable diesel often get confused and sometimes used interchangeably, but they are two separate fuels. They have two different ASTM standards that they have to meet and that they're kind of measured against.
And what is ASTM for those folks?
ASTM is the American Society for Testing and Measurement. So it's a standards organization that everything everything has some, likely some tie back to ASTM. So, drinking water has, a specification, EPA and ASTM, regulatory bodies that measure the output. So, a ruler has to be 12 inches. Well, that's a standardized unit of measurement. ASTM builds these standards for all sorts of different products. So, it's a regulatory and kind of governing body that enforces and creates standards, and they're usually consensus based standards. So it's industry, it's academia, it's a whole host of different stakeholders that all come together for the benefit of whatever they're working on. And so biodiesel and renewable diesel have different ASTM specifications, and the process to make the two fuels is slightly different as well. So renewable diesel essentially takes the fats and vegetable oils and puts them through a traditional petroleum refinery. So instead of putting crude oil in, you put vegetable oils and animal fats into the crude oil refinery. And what you get out on the back end is a product that looks much more similar than traditional diesel fuel, or much more similar to traditional diesel fuel than what you'd see from a biodiesel. So biodiesel goes through a biorefining process. It's a different process than the petroleum refining process. And so you get a slightly different fuel out of that. There are benefits and there are challenges with both fuels. The benefit of renewable diesel is that because the molecule looks very similar to the traditional petroleum diesel molecule, it can be used almost interchangeably in a diesel engine without any upgrades. There's a couple of challenges that come with that. One, it has kind of the similar toxicity of traditional diesel because that molecule is so similar. The carcinogenic properties and the handling are very similar to petroleum diesel. It also is much more expensive to refine and produce than petroleum diesel or a biodiesel. And so there's a high cost of high per gallon cost on the renewable diesel fuel. But the advantage again is its flexibility. It can be used in any diesel engine without any kind of an upgrade. And with biodiesel, you retain a lot of those bio-based components in the biorefining process. So it's less costly to produce. So it's a similar price point to traditional diesel. You get a fuel that's about the same price point, safer for handling and transport. But the challenge is you do need to make some engine modifications and some upgrades if you're going to use it in more than a 20% blend.
You're saying that the biodiesel is better for the environment and better for public health.
Biodiesel, generally speaking, has a better handling and use profile. Renewable diesel and biodiesel get about the same carbon reductions, and they're going to get about the same particulate matter emission reductions. But from a handling and use standpoint, biodiesel is a much safer product to handle.
Okay. So last question, and I'll give you a chance to wrap up. What are the key benefits of retrofitting existing vehicles to run on biodiesel compared to purchasing new biodiesel compatible vehicles?
Yeah, so I think, really one of the critical advantage, the critical component here to upgrading existing trucks to running on 100% biodiesel is going to be the benefit of those immediate reductions. If your fleet purchase cycle, if you just bought 100 refuse trucks this year and they're diesel vehicles, it's going to be probably a decade before those trucks get phased out. And so upgrading them today to run on 100% biodiesel allows you to generate a cumulative benefit of the next 9 years that those vehicles are going to operate by, reducing their emissions today. And that's it's a really impactful, it's a really impactful opportunity to be able to upgrade existing trucks. But the technology exists today. There's no reason that fleets should be procuring traditional diesel vehicles that aren't upgraded to run on biodiesel, because the way that the technology works, it allows flexibility. You can utilize diesel fuel, you can utilize biodiesel, and for a relatively small, incremental cost, it gives you that flexibility for the lifetime of that asset. So our perspective is, municipalities, certainly municipalities with environmental and carbon reduction goals, shouldn't be purchasing traditional diesel vehicles. Anything that goes into their fleet should be a alternative fuel vehicle.
Amen to that. Amen. Let me just ask you this last thing. I know they're gonna give me the hook in a second, but funding, how do they get these projects financed? I know that some people are using their operating O&M budget. Some are using grants, etc. What are some of the popular things that you do to help public and private fleet leaders get these vehicles either purchased or retrofitted?
Yeah, so the capital investment in the technology is a relatively nominal upgrade cost. The operating expenses for biodiesel fuel compared to traditional diesel fuel are on par. So it's very similar to the price point of traditional diesel. So it's a relatively nominal impact, especially when you're looking at other technologies. It can be orders of magnitude less from an OpEx and a CapEx standpoint than, again, a heavy duty electric vehicle or something like that. But even still, budgets are challenging. So we always work in a kind of consultative basis to help customers understand what funding options are available, whether they might be grant funding or cost share funding or financing options. The district has been able to take advantage of an EPA program called DERA. It's the Diesel Emission Reduction Act. It helps to fund emission reduction technologies. EPA has been a phenomenal partner for helping the district to upgrade their vehicles to 100% biodiesel. The project you mentioned earlier with Prince George's County, that is funded in part by the Maryland Energy Administration. So one of their grant programs. So there's a lot of opportunity for funding. It's just a matter of understanding, what the scope of the fleet deployment looks like and what type of assets. And that's something, we work with all of our customers to help understand that landscape and then put them in touch with the appropriate resources, whether it's grant writing or otherwise.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for being here. I want to give you a chance to just do any closing remarks, and how can they reach you?
Yeah, so best way to contact us is through the website. So name of the company is Optimus Technologies, and the website is Optimus tech.com. And in terms of closing remarks, I think just hitting home on the ability to make an impact today, especially when we're looking at carbon emissions and air pollutants. The ability to impact that reduction today has a substantially outsized impact than waiting for another technology in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, because carbon emissions are cumulative. So any CO2 that's put into the atmosphere today has a compounding impact over the next 5, 10 years. And so given that we have pretty dire situation on our hands in terms of overall carbon emissions into the atmosphere. Whatever you can do today to reduce your emissions, should be high on the priority list.
Well, again, thank you, Colin. Thank you for all of your leadership, your hard work, building your company. And I hope that people that are watching today, you can make an immediate impact to save the planet, to improve health, to make sure those vehicles that are running through your neighborhoods, that they are not polluting as much as they are. As he stated earlier, they can cut that pollution down 70+% for a small fraction of the price. Let's do it. 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. That's too long. Let's do right by our kids. Let's do right by our seniors. And let's do right by also the workers and all people who have to breathe in diesel fumes. We can do this. We can make your neighborhood a better place. The workers who drive these vehicles, we can do better by them as well. So I want to encourage you to go to his website at optimistech.com. And thanks for being here. We're glad that you remember and all the great work you're doing around the country. Everyone, until next time, this is Green Leaders on the Move with Greater Washington Region Clean Cities. I'm Antoine Thompson, Executive Director. We'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Green Leaders on the Move with Antoine Thompson. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest trends in clean energy and transportation from the Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GWRCCC. Thanks again. See you next time.